Welcome to Sexy Mom Abundant Life with best-selling author and coach Kathy Williams, a show to help you tap into the support of the universe and access the abundance that's available in every area of your life. Listen in for conversations and tools to create more ease, joy, and possibility with family, relationships, business, and living. Kathy's joyful perspective will help you tap into your own wisdom and create a life of presence and abundance your way. Listen live on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, or anytime on iTunes or at IOM FM.
Welcome to Sexy Mom Abundant Life, everyone. This is your host, Kathy Williams, and it's so fun to listen to that intro because I feel like every time I listen to it, even though I've listened to it for over 2 years now, something else occurs to me, something new pops, and today it was really about listening to your own wisdom, tapping into your own wisdom to create your life. Because we have all these messages from everywhere outside of us, from parents, from society, from the media, from books, even like the best teachers and gurus have messages for us, and they're not all going to be a fit. So we really have to work from our own intuition and our own inner wisdom. So I'm super excited about today's show. If you're not familiar with me, just a little bit about me. I'm a coach. I'm a speaker. I teach online classes. I have been doing this show for over 2 years and been on the radio for, I don't even know. Time is the worst thing for me. I don't know time. But I have been on kind of a spiritual path since I was 15 years old, and I was reading Alan Watts and his book, The Way of Zen, which just really landed for me and opened up an entire universe. So I've studied in India with gurus who have truly, I've seen miracles occur in front of my eyes. I've seen things appear out of thin air. I've studied with shamans, particularly from Hawaii. I got to know and work with a shaman on some very deep levels. I've done, all the things that are sort of mainstream now that weren't maybe when I was doing them, which are like Reiki and yoga and stuff like that. And always adding to my toolbox. In today's show, well, before we go into today's show, you can reach me feel like I'm ADD too. You can reach me at meetkathywilliams.com, and there you can download one of my very favorite exercises for creating your life. And I've had people say, Kathy, stuff is manifesting out of nowhere because I use these things. And it's true. It will, if you allow it. So go ahead and download the Create Your Life exercise there at meetkathywilliams.com. And that is also where you can find classes and communicate with me and give me ideas for YouTube. I'm going to be on YouTube and Instagram Reels a whole lot more. And sadly, for now, this is the last show, as maybe it evolves into something new. So there are always the archives and downloads on iTunes and Spotify and all of that. So you can find Sexy Mom Abundant Life shows about all sorts of things. And today, Kaylin has been sort of a friend, a client, a participant in my life for, I don't know how many years, Kaylin. It's been a while.
Yeah, 8?
8 years. Oh my gosh. See, I don't know time, like I said. And she had all these questions for me, and she's like, can I interview you? And I said, yes. So today's show is really, your life is your practice. Your life is going to deliver everything you need to evolve. And we don't always trust that. We sometimes think, oh, I need the next class, or I don't have what I need. And in truth, in every moment you exist, you have what you need in that moment. Okay? Or your mind may be ahead of you and thinking, I don't have what I need for tomorrow or for next week. but right now you have everything you need. So I do not know what questions she's going to ask, which actually puts me like, I feel like I'm in the hot seat. But it's going to be a fun journey. And yes, so thanks for being here. And thanks for being here, Kaylin. Right,
Yeah.
where are we going?
Thank you. I'm so excited for this. I mean, gosh, I feel like I'm at least once a week asking you a question. Kathy, what about this? Kathy, do you know much about this? And you really embody the wisdom that you've, I guess, acquired throughout your life. That's just my experience of you. And I just adore that. It's been very stabilizing in my life. And it's really assisted me in tapping into more of my wisdom as well. So I've watched you also change so much, and that's been so inspiring. And so, yes, I have so many questions. First off, what pings me, though, is tomorrow you actually have a class that you're doing called Energy Magic. And I wonder if you wanted to talk a little bit about that and just give us a little ping.
Thank you. Yes. So Energy Magic is an idea I got when I was watching Bentinho Massaro, who is a spiritual teacher. And I started to play with the idea of you are empowered in this moment now, and that's it, right? Your empowerment does not depend on getting other rights, like feminine rights or this or that kind of rights. Your empowerment depends only on you and your choice right now, and your choice to embody any frequency. So if I'm angry because of what someone's doing, I'm actually, and I'm giving my power away about that, or I feel like a victim, I'm not empowered. And I have the choice, actually, the faster I can come back to center and embody what I prefer, that's really empowerment. It's not living in, this needs to change for me to be okay. Okay? The world needs to change. The government needs to change. COVID needs to change. My spouse needs to be changed. Like, if I require any of that to change for me to be okay, I'm always going to have something that needs to change in order for me to be okay. My well-being is going to be super temporary, right? It might be momentary, or for an hour, or for 3, or for an entire day, but ultimately I'm going to get knocked off thinking, oh, this driver who cut me off needs to change, right? Or what the stock market needs to change in order for me to be okay. So if I can embody more of the energies that I prefer more of the time, then it's like using your emotions to navigate, or the energies to navigate back to center. And it's a practice, because we practice drama in our lives. We practice a lot of drama.
No, I never do that. I'm just kidding.
Right?
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what we do during the class, is we practice. And I put this into action with one of my masterminds that I lead. And I, if you're interested, I lead like 5-person, 6-person masterminds. And so the women had profound effects from doing this for an entire, a little bit more than an hour. Just like, back to the energy you prefer. Back to the energy you prefer. Back to that energy, right? No matter what you're doing. And one woman said, I got over procrastination during our sessions together. Wow. And it's not about BS. It's not about saying, oh, it's so lovely, I'm feeling good, when you're not, right? But right. It's like back to a preferred energy that is true. Like, okay, I can be grateful that I'm drinking a cup of hot cocoa, right? It's not like, Oh, I'm so grateful that I'm in the best relationship of my life. If you're not, right? It's about back to the best feeling energy you can experience now.
Yeah. Basically what I'm hearing you say is that it's empowering ourselves is coming back to center, being very clear about what it is we are, like the energies that we would like to be tapped into, to be creating from. And I get that goes back to essence as well. And I've done one of your masterminds, and it sounds like they're constantly changing and up-leveling. It sounds, because that was a very profound experience for me and transformative for me at that time in my life. And now it just sounds like it keeps evolving, which is amazing, and which is like also my, like how I've just observed you throughout the years as well, like going from being prior to being an Access Consciousness facilitator to becoming an Access Consciousness facilitator, except I think I met you when you were one. And then leaving that, and you're still just like, boom, I'm this powerhouse, like I'm here, like I am here. And you're still creating your life with all of the tools that you've acquired, and it's just awesome practicing them. And so you also have another class that you're going to be doing, which has to do with chakras, and I've been receiving chakra activations from you for like over a year now, and it has been, I want to say I was one of the catalysts in getting you to do that.
Yes, you were. Yes, you were.
And there's something that I recently was invited to do, a chakra class, and I was like, man, this is really pinging me in my world, but there's something about the way you embody them that is very insignificant and very natural. And that just juices me. And so I'm wondering if you would also talk a little bit about your upcoming chakra program or class, or what are you doing, your academy, like this magical, full of presents and gifts.
People have been asking me for a while to do something longer, do something more comprehensive. I've done a lot of like one-time pop-up classes and stuff like that. And like you said, you were instrumental in getting me to do more chakra things with people. This is a body of work that, I went to India. I did silent meditation retreats on the chakras. I'm very specific that it's called chakras and not chakras.
Thank you.
It's like there, even in the Hawaiian work that I did, like we reference chakras. They might not be called that, but there are energy centers of the body. And from culture to culture, it doesn't matter. It's universal, right? It's not dependent on where you grew up. You still have chakras. And I think that, the more we make something significant, the more it actually limits us. And there's awareness that we can work with the energy body, just like we can work with a physical body, to help us grow and expand. And, one of the things I think is, for me, that's for better or worse, I like people to choose what works for them. I'm never going to say, like, here, you should go off and do this for 21 days. I might say, see how this works for 21 days if it feels resonant with you.
Yeah, that's been my experience totally, mentoring with you. I've done so many classes with you, and even in the mastermind, that's exactly what I've experienced with you, yeah.
And so, because, again, I really, like I mentioned to begin with, we get all these messages from outside, right? People in books, even people we admire, but they're really talking about like what's worked for them or what they think works or what they've seen work for people. And just kind of like diet. Everyone, like, yes, keto diet works. Yes, Atkins, yes, vegetarian, yes, all these different diets work, but they're not exactly a right fit for everybody. So I would probably say hundreds of tools for chakras. And it's just about like finding the right fit. And some of them are definitely like that you cannot do that technique without changing, right? You will change from that technique.
Wow.
Yeah, it's, but you have
you
to
cannot do that technique without changing. But if you do that technique, you will change. That's like a meme.
and the thing is it has to be something you like enough to keep doing. Does that make sense? Because I think a lot of the times we don't, and I talked about this in my class about effortless meditation. We think something looks like a good idea. Like, oh, everyone's doing Joe Dispenza's meditation, so let me do it, right? So it looks like a good idea, and it's working so well for my friend, right? So you sit down and you do that, and you're like, that was nice. And maybe you do it 3 more times. Or maybe you do it, okay, I want to keep doing this, but then it kind of falls off. You fall off the wagon because it didn't truly resonate with your heart or the being that you are. Does that make sense? And I think for a spiritual practice or a practice that's really going to evolve us to stick, it has to have that almost, without being too like heavy about it, it has to have some kind of meaning for us in order for us to keep doing it. And that meaning might, or that faith that it's going to work, might come from outside of you. I have a guru who said, if I do the Ganesha mantra, my depression's going to lift. You have faith in that teacher, right? And so you do the Ganesha mantra and then your depression lifts. But if you don't have faith in that teacher, or it just doesn't feel like the right practice for you, you're gonna fall off it.
You said something too that is a question that has come up for me a lot. You use the word spiritual practice, and there's a lot of that word has been tossed around a lot, especially over the last decade. And I wonder, like, what does that actually mean to you to be spiritual, or what? Because then for me, I'm like, how is there actually, like, I've been told, like, you're so ethereal, you're so spiritual. I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, I don't even get what you're talking about. There's like, isn't it also spiritual to have money and really lovely clothes that really my body is like really happy in? Like, couldn't that be spiritual? What is spiritual? So I'm curious, what is it to you?
What a fun thing to explore. And we're actually a little bit past the break point. So when we come back, we'll talk about what is spiritual and what's not. Thank you so much. Fun questions. Thanks for listening to Sexy Mom Abundant Life, everyone. Come check me out at meetkathywilliams.com. And you can find the show and subscribe on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you like to listen. We'll be back in just a moment.
Feed your soul with waves of consciousness on OMTimes Radio. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes Magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers, and researchers, pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
Hey everyone. Thanks for listening to Sexy Mom Abundant Life. I'm so grateful you're here. As a listener, you can pop over to meetkathywilliams.com and get 20% off any item in the shop, including videos, energy pulls, even private sessions, by entering the code SMRadio. Also at meetkathywilliams.com, you can download a free Create Your Life exercise and join me for online classes and Hawaii retreats. And if you're stuck, helping you get unstuck is my specialty. I'd love to work with you one-on-one.
COVID-19, brought to you by CDC and the Ad Council.
Do you feel like your emotions are all over the place? That's normal during this abnormal time. There are a number of ways to cope. Maintain a healthy routine, get enough sleep, eat nutritious food, and exercise at least 30 minutes each day. Schedule some time to talk with a friend or family member. And remember, you can always take a few deep breaths to feel more centered.
Find more self-care and coping tips at coping-19.org.
Welcome back to Sexy Mom Abundant Life. This is Kathy Williams, and I'm here with Kaylin Marie today. We are talking about journeying. You know, what is spiritual, allowing life to present the lessons that you need. And Kaylin has all sorts of questions, but I don't know what they are. So I get to be on the spot with all that. And what I would love is for you all to join me on Meetup. I'm going to be offering some free classes on Meetup. Head to my website, meetkathywilliams.com, and on the first page there's a link to the Meetup group. It's called something about spirituality. I don't remember the name of it. It's like energy and spirituality. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and click like and stuff like that on Instagram. I would really appreciate that. That helps like all the algorithms hook me up with people who are going to be able to use this work as well. So I appreciate that, and reach out at meetkathywilliams.com as well. I would love to hear from you and your ideas for videos and different, content. All right. So before we went to the break, your question was,
what is spiritual to you? What does that mean to you? What's your perspective on spiritual?
Okay. I have this perspective, either nothing is spiritual or everything is spiritual, right? However, it's in our attitude. Everything is created of the same thing. It's all the same substance, really. It's all spirit. But if we're pushing against life, if we're upset with things, we're not seeing it that way. And I found for me that having some sort of practice that continually grounds me into alignment with myself, into recognition, into, I'm particularly fond of mantras. It's really interesting because from the time I was about 20, maybe, 20, to like when I started doing a particular body of work in which they said, mantras, whatever. I did a lot of mantras, and then I did that work, and then I kind of let that particular philosophy go in a way, and I came back to mantras. Mantras are like tuning your vibration to a particular frequency, and it's powerful, right? If you will really let your vibration be tuned by those sounds, you don't even have to know what the mantra is saying. Now, again, like I mentioned, a lot of times the bhavana, or sort of like feeling or intent, sankalpa, is useful for us to like really stay connected to it, but you don't need that in order for the mantra to change you. And so, I think the purpose of a consistent spiritual practice, and maybe that's not a great word, I think there's a lot of like, I'm thinking of a woman in my town, and she talks like this, and she's very spiritual, and it's just like, get over yourself, right? That's not actually real. And so you can see I'm not triggered by it, but it's like, be real.
Like you're aware that she's not being totally real, like authentic. It's like putting on a mask.
Exactly. So a lot of people do that with the word spiritual, or try to get or be more spiritual, right? But you're already as spiritual as you need to be. There's nowhere you have to get to be more spiritual. Now, the use of a particular consistent practice is to tap you back into that. It's to refine. Yeah.
Is your practice the practice you prefer mantras? I know you also do Ritam. That's how it's said correct? Did I say it correctly? Ritam?
Ritam. Yeah.
Ritam.
So we'll talk about that in a moment.
Okay.
One of my primary practices is to look in the mirror and say nothing. And if any thought arises, then you tell yourself, I am not that, or I'm not that story, or I'm not my ego, whichever of those three phrases you like, and watch all of it drift away. And what remains is beautiful.
I'm so grateful that you actually brought this up. I was listening to just some IGV TV yesterday. It was really random. I was folding some clothes, and it's on a topic from somebody that I actually, I like what they do. But she talked about reframing our stories and changing our stories and things like that. And I was just like, whoa, that doesn't actually tap me back into the essence of me, or what it is that I'm actually being. To me, it's just trying to change the mind instead of get out of it. And so I'm really grateful that you said that, because it reminded me just now, like, yeah.
Thank you. Like for me, this particular practice, and I did a whole show on it, it's called The Mirror is Your Friend. This particular practice is so useful because it shows you, like, constantly things are coming and going through your head. Oh, I need to do the laundry. Oh, I should have said this to that guy at the party yesterday. Oh, whatever. We have all these things that constantly come and go, and they're going to continue to do that, but you're not any of that.
What is that, though, anyway?
What is what?
What are thoughts, anyway? Like, how does that even work? Like in Access, it's like, who does that belong to? Is that mine? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, well, what is it? Is it just like what's generating? What is thought? Like, what is that even? Yeah.
I think a better question is, what would it take for me to have harmony no matter what's going through my head? Right? Because it really doesn't matter if the thought is someone else's, if the thought is generated by you, if the thought is a cultural thing that you're hooked into, it doesn't matter. What matters is that that thought is just going to come and it's going to go, right? It's not a permanent thing. It's not who you are. It's kind of like we all have a phone or a computer, and on the computer, you could be watching a horror movie, or you could be watching some blissful affirmation video. You could be watching dolphins, right? You could be watching the murder of, someone like on the news, right? You could be watching any of this stuff, but the screen is whole and unchanging, and it doesn't care what you're watching. The screen doesn't say, oh, by the way, you watched, Friends too many hours today. The screen just says, okay, yeah, what is, and that's okay. It's not permanent. It allows everything to arise and fall. So the mirror exercise, sitting in front of the mirror, helps you see what is permanent and what's not permanent. You start to see it. Like when I was 23 years old, I went to Ramana Maharishi's ashram in India, and it's at the foot of this mountain. And he has this little cave in the mountain where, he used to sit and meditate. And the vibration in that cave is amazing. I stayed there for hours. I actually missed lunch, and then the guy yelled at me. And I was like, dude, I was meditating in a cave, I don't care about lunch. For real. I was like, so what? I had lunch with the vibrations. I was being fed, yes. But what took me to his ashram is, if you will Google Ramana, Ramana, Maharishi, and you look at his eyes, there's this lovely, yummy glow. My yoga teacher used to call it the love goo. Okay, and it's just such a loving gaze. And I was like, I'm going to that place. Wherever he was, I'm going to go there. So I did. And, that was a beautiful experience. And in some ways, it was a challenging experience. I could, spend an hour talking about it. But what I'm starting to see through the mirror exercise, just sitting in the mirror, I'm not that. I'm not anything that comes and goes. I'm not that story. I started to see the love goo arising from in myself, because we're the same thing. Ramana Maharishi, you, me, all of us have that. We are it. We just don't identify with it. And that's the use of a spiritual practice, is help you re-identify, because you're identified with all these stories, with your past, with the drama, with whatever's going on, right? We're so rarely here in the present moment. And we're so rarely identified with what we truly are, which is the screen, rather than the movie that's arising on the screen.
So what are we?
The screen. Your pure consciousness. Like just right now, become aware of what is listening to my voice. Usually we're identified with the voice, or usually we're identified with our response mentally, or how we're going to respond, like what we're going to say next, right? We're not actually identified with what is truly listening. Or when you're watching, what is truly listening? And so you begin to listen for the listener almost. Like there's an element of, wait, I'm bigger than this body that I usually identify with. And in the same way, you can start to respond to your own emotions from that vantage point.
Yeah, that brings up another question.
Sure.
Well, yeah, I noticed okay, I guess this goes into Access, because it seems like before I started doing Access, I was already on my path of transformation and evolution or growth or whatever you want to call it, consciousness. I was just on my path, my journey of expansion. And then I got into consciousness, and it seems like, or Access consciousness, and it's like consciousness is everything. It judges nothing, excludes nothing, whatever. And they talk about like how thoughts, feelings, and emotions are the lower harmonics of being, or the lower harmonics of, and then there's perceiving, knowing, being, and receiving. And so I remember you were talking about how you kept asking, what is actually going to create greater? And that was like a question that was a catalyst for you in realizing that, oh, there's something greater for me beyond Access consciousness. Like, and it's not that it's wrong or that it didn't work for you. It's just that you're choosing greater. And so since that, I've kind of noticed that you go back, like I read your text and I'm like, oh, she's saying the word think, and like, oh, she's talking about emotions and feelings, and I guess sometimes for me it's like how to bridge it all, because I see this whole picture and trying to separate from certain things hasn't really worked for me. And yet it's also, that seems so counterproductive, because we're not, consciousness is supposed to include everything. And I get that it also could go back to like, well, where would I like to choose to function? So I'm empowering myself. What are like, do you know what I'm kind of trying to ask? Like, I guess that you're really great at bridging things and just like kind of being this universal. I remember asking you one time about a soul. I'm like, what is a soul though? Because ever since I've started doing that, it's like, I don't like, do I have a soul? Am I a soul? Am I a being? What's the difference? And I remember you like just clarifying, well, this is my experience. You kind of need, anyways, I'm going to let you take the mic.
So, again, anything that arises or falls away is not you. And one of the things I've seen people do when they're like, oh, emotions are lower harmonics. First off, they're judging, right? I shouldn't have emotions, or this emotion is not mine. I'm trying to separate from it. What can I do to get rid of it?
Yeah.
And instead of just being with what is, okay? and allowing it, and not identifying with it. Like, one of my very favorite questions that I've learned to use with emotions came from Rupert Spira. And Rupert Spira is a Vedanta teacher, and just lovely, lovely, calm presence. I always think of him as the uncle I would have loved to have had. and one of his questions with emotions is, could I live with this forever? And by asking that, you almost sort of settle your mind about it, because often, let's say I'm in a fear state, I want that to go away, right? I don't want it to be here.
Yeah.
And so first off, you're judging it that it shouldn't be there, right? Like, instead of just like, oh, interesting, I'm in a fear state. Interesting. What's arising here? Like this natural, soft curiosity. We're almost in a tense pushing against what is, instead of like, oh, wow, what's beneath this? Okay? So anyway, what he said about these emotions is, can I live with it forever? And that immediately invites a response from the mind, because the mind knows nothing has ever lasted forever.
That's so true.
You were scared in second grade. That didn't last forever. You were sad when your pet died. That didn't last forever.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, none of it has lasted forever. So immediately it shifts the mind from like, oh, I must get rid of this, into, oh, it's not going to last forever. But then that question also evokes this sense of like, I wonder if I actually could live with it forever. And if so, how would I? Right? And a softening into that. So I know I didn't I didn't directly answer your question, but it's something to play with and not resist. And I know we're going to break now, so we'll be back in just a few minutes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And thanks, everybody. Please subscribe.
The future of Internet radio is here. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
Hey everyone. Thanks for listening to Sexy Mom Abundant Life. I'm so grateful you're here. As a listener, you can pop over to meetkathywilliams.com and get 20% off any item in the shop, including videos, energy pulls, even private sessions, by entering the code SMRadio. Also at meetkathywilliams.com, you can download a free Create Your Life exercise and join me for online classes and Hawaii retreats. And if you're stuck, helping you get unstuck is my specialty. I'd love to work with you one-on-one.
More than 24 million Americans have an autoimmune disorder, and that number continues to grow. I'm Sharon Saylor, and I'm one of those 24 million. To put that number in perspective, cancer affects about 9 million and heart disease up to 22 million. That's why I've brought together top experts and those thriving regardless of their diagnosis to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information. Join me, Sharon Saylor, Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the Autoimmune Hour on Life Interrupted Radio to find out how to live your life uninterrupted.
You came across someone struggling with hunger. How would you recognize them? Would you notice an 8-year-old girl who's not excited for summer break
because she may not be having lunch again until September?
Or a war veteran who's having a hard time
landing a job and getting back on his feet?
I am the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger. I am hunger in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Right now. Welcome back to Sexy Mom Abundant Life, everybody. Wow, today's show is all about questions. Questions about spirituality, about practices, about my journey, which has been long and arduous. And no. You can tell it's so arduous, right? And if you haven't already, please click subscribe and come over and visit meetkathywilliams.com. So before we head back into the show, I just want to give a shout out to Kaylin because she has this amazing service that is letters to yourself. It's almost letters to your future self. So you write a letter, a note to yourself, and then mail it to her, and then in a year, she will mail it back to you. And I've been doing this for quite a while, and it's fascinating because, you know, a year ago, I thought like, I don't know if I'll be living in the same house, so I'll address this to my dad's house. And then my dad's like, I got a letter for you. But you see where you were and how far you've come, and it's truly magical. So how can people find out about this?
They could email me for now at BEYOND.KAYLIN@gmail.com.
Beyond Kaylin at gmail.com.
Yes. beyond.kaylin@gmail.com. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful you were willing to be my little guinea pig. You're a cute guinea pig, too. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you. It's been super fun for me as well. So, yeah, definitely worth doing. Okay, so where were we?
Well, where could we go?
Where are we now?
Yeah.
That's the important thing.
That's true. And did you want to talk more about chakras? I know I asked you a question a few weeks ago because I was looking at this one and it was like, do you experience or perceive chakras being like underactive, overactive, and balanced? And there's so many books, there's so much material online, there's so many classes, people are like going crazy, and what do you know? You know, like
people make things too complex because the mind loves complexity.
Ooh, it does. Yeah.
So the more complex I make it, the longer a book I can write. The more knowledgeable people think I am, right? Whatever. And it's like simplicity is so useful. So one of the simplest ways, and of course it requires cultivation, but one of the simplest ways to sort of perceive chakras, and it could be your own or another person's, is to imagine, and you could imagine like a TV screen in front of you and the person and their energy system, and then you just look, and you could look from top down or bottom up. For some reason I always look top down, and you just kind of look at what's going on from the 7th at the crown of the head to the 6th. You could look at more. You could look at ones above the head, but these are probably more useful for the majority of the person. So the 6th in the center of the head, the 5th in the throat, the 4th in the chest, the 3rd in the solar plexus, the 2nd in the low belly, and the 1st in the, like, at the tailbone. And so you can take your hand, or you could just observe, like on the screen, what you imagine, sense, or feel is going on. And imagination is actually a really useful key in intuition. I know a lot of people doubt, and they're like, well, am I imagining things or this or that? Just go with it, right? And so you can see and look relationally. So you say, wow, it looks like the heart is really big as compared to the solar plexus, right? Or it looks like a lot is happening in the 2nd versus, the 6th or whatever. And so you can just kind of scan and see, and then you ask, is that, what needs to change here? Or what would it be useful to change here? And that's what you play with.
Yeah, thank you. And you did a psychic school wasn't there like a psychic school you did a few years ago? And also I want to know, so are you going to do a 6-month chakra course or?
I am. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I am. The initial will be a little shorter. It will be the same information, but it's more of a beta program. And if anyone's interested, you can email me about it. We're going to do some techniques that are secret, secret, right? Some techniques that you will not see in books. Some techniques that, again, I like to make it very practical and less heady. I mean, there will be, written information that you can read and things to digest, but, the inner practices are what's most useful in changing chakras rather than crystals or other people working on you. Other people working on you can be super useful, but you working on yourself in regard to this is so potent. And the breath is really powerful medicine when it comes to your energy system. Considering that the breath has to do, it's almost like your body is a light bulb and the energy system is the illuminating force, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so if you want to work with the energy system, the most useful thing to do would be to work with the electricity. But we're not but don't make that into the electricity of the body. It's just an analogy, if that makes sense. Yeah. So in this case, that's prana or energy, or chi, or mana.
Yeah, sweet. I'm excited. And what's your email for all of those? Maybe they're not going to go to your website. They can just email you, drop you a line.
You can drop me a line.
Chakra course.
You know what? I'm going to get rid of my Gmail because Gmail does not deliver all the messages for whatever reason. So the easiest way to message me would be on Instagram, Kathy Williams Public Figure, and make sure you follow. And then you could email me at magicalkathy@outlook.com. And then let me know that you're interested in that. So the first course will be shorter. It's going to be the same information. And then the next round of it will be more of a 6-month format in which more of it is delivered remotely, and then we get together occasionally.
And I know we're just about to, because you're speaking from your own journey. You have so many things that you could practice, many that you do. What would you, if we could know anything about you, what would you say you'd like us to know?
Goodness. If you can know anything about me, I guess what's really present for me right now is I used to be a stress ball. I used to be so nervous and wound up, and that changed as I stepped more and more into the present moment. And I have tons of technique. If you're an anxious person like I was, oh my gosh, you have no idea. I think about myself and I'm like, oh gosh, you poor thing, right? So if you have anxiety, if you have low moods, please know that that's not permanent. That's so changeable, and reach out. I'm happy to help. And there is so much that you can do to change and calm the nervous system fast and upgrade your energy. I mean, I'm no different from you, right? I mean, I might have different neuroses or whatever, but it's we all have conditioning that we can realize is just patterns and thoughts, and they're not permanent, and they're changeable. And you can step more into who you are, which is this vast, changeless, peaceful presence. And as you step more into that, that doesn't mean that you're going to be it all the time right away, right? There's still going to be things that throw you off. And there are still going to be times when you slip into the old patterns. But those become less and less, and you become identified with the peace and the presence behind everything that arises.
Totally.
More and more.
Totally get that. And then acknowledging how far I've come has been such a gift for me. I know also when you do your bowl of light, your modern twist on that ancient practice, which there's breath work in that, and that's quite cleansing and purifying as well. Are you going to be doing one of those classes soon too?
The bowl of light class, I just kind of do when it pops. And, it's on my website. It is a powerful practice. Thank you for bringing that in. I did that with a kahuna, and then later, I got more information from this being, this Hawaiian being, who gave me some suggestions for it. And so it's in the shop on my website, and listeners get
I highly recommend.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it is powerful and cleansing and links us back to the light that we already are, and helps us shed what keeps us from that. And listeners get 20% off with the code SMRadio. So that's in the shop. Yeah, at meetkathywilliams.com. Yeah.
Yeah, sweet. And Energy Magic is tomorrow, April 23rd, 2021. It's at 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, and it's only $24.24. That's how much it costs. So
maybe it should have been $23.23, right? It's the 23rd.
Look, it's progressing us forward, right? Like,
there we go. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Like, I know that I've just had so many questions, and I really appreciate you just being, like, you're amazing, and I'm just so grateful you're here. So
thank you so much, Kaylin. And make sure to email Kaylin, find out about her Letters to Your Future program, beyond.kaylin@gmail.com. And thanks for listening, everyone. I really appreciate your support. And come to meetkathywilliams.com. Join the meetup group, and you can come to some free classes that we have. And click subscribe. Thanks so much. And feel free to reach out to me.
Yeah, or don't do it, because it might transform your life, and you wouldn't want that. Just
Kathy
kidding.
Williams, public figure on YouTube, and Kathy Williams, public figure on Instagram. All right.
Okay,
Have a great one. Aloha.